When you first see back-edge shelving, it's hard not to stop for a moment and simply take it in. Shelves are something we've all grown up around, usually flat planks of polished wood or manufactured boards, practical and unassuming. But when back-edge shelving enters a space, it shifts the way you think about storage, display, and even furniture itself. The raw edge of the tree remains right there in front of you. The natural curve, the jagged textures, the untouched patterns of growth. It doesn't hide its origin. It doesn't pretend to be a manufactured product. It proudly says, I was once alive, rooted in the earth, shaped by years of wind, water, and sun. The appeal of back-edge shelving lies in this tension between the wild and the refined. On one hand, you have a slice of tree with its natural bark intact, unpredictable and untamed. On the other, you have a shelf, a functional element of interior design, expected to be clean, stable, and reliable. Bringing those two together creates something both useful and poetic. Every time you glance at it, you're reminded that nature doesn't need to be hidden away or smoothed into conformity to belong in modern interiors. Instead, it can be celebrated in its most honest form. Picture a wall in a living room where three back-edge shelves run horizontally, one above the other. Their surfaces are sanded smooth, finished to a satin glow that catches the light, but the edges retain their rough outline. Some curves dip down slightly, others rise, and here and there the bark thickens into ridges. Placed against a neutral painted wall, they become focal points. Place books on them, or ceramics, or framed photographs, and suddenly the ordinary act of shelving transforms into display, almost like a gallery wall that whispers of forests and raw landscapes. Every piece of back-edge shelving is unique, and that's part of its power. No two slices of wood ever carry the same story. One may have wide sweeping curves, another sharp jagged lines. The bark of a walnut tree carries different textures and colors than the bark of an oak or a maple. Some are rugged and deeply furrowed, others smoother and more even. The very irregularity that mass-manufactured furniture works so hard to eliminate becomes the defining characteristic here. When you run your hand along the surface, you feel the transitions between smooth and rough, between the human hand sanding and the tree's own creation. Crafting back-edge shelves is as much about restraint as it is about skill. The woodworker must know how to prepare and finish the slab without stripping away the character that makes it special. The surface must be leveled, planed, and sanded so that objects can rest safely, but the edges are left largely untouched. Sometimes the bark itself is stabilized with clear epoxy or resin to keep it from crumbling over time. In other cases, the bark may be carefully removed while preserving the natural contour underneath, a process called live edge finishing. Both approaches keep the sense of natural movement intact while ensuring durability. The choice of wood species matters, too. Walnut bark tends to be dark and textured, pairing beautifully with lighter modern interiors. Oak bark has a rugged, earthy appeal, while cherry bark brings reddish undertones that catch warm light in striking ways. Reclaimed slabs often carry even more character. Marks from weathering, signs of insects long gone, or irregularities that tell of storms survived. Each of these becomes part of the visual story the shelf tells. In a kitchen, back-edge shelves create an immediate connection between the modern functionality of cabinetry and the raw authenticity of natural wood. Line a wall above the counter with them, stocked with glass jars, mugs, and cooking essentials, and the entire kitchen shifts toward warmth. What could have been sterile becomes welcoming, alive, and deeply tactile. In bathrooms, back-edge shelving brings contrast to sleek tiles and polished fixtures. Towels stacked on a slab with bark intact feel more like part of a spa ritual than simple storage. In bedrooms, they can act as bedside shelving, replacing the bulk of traditional nightstands with something lighter, more open, and more visually interesting. A single slab fixed to the wall, floating without visible brackets, becomes both shelf and sculpture. Place a lamp on one side, a book and glasses on the other, and the whole setup carries the intimacy of handcrafted design. Even in commercial spaces, cafes, small boutiques, creative studios, back-edge shelves find a natural home. Coffee shops use them to display mugs, plants, or small merchandise. Boutiques line walls with back-edge shelving to give their products a sense of grounded authenticity. Creative studios mount them to store tools and books, finding inspiration in the rawness of the material itself. The edges remind you of imperfection, of growth, of patience, all things any creative space thrives on. Mounting these shelves often uses minimalist hardware to keep the focus on the wood. Floating shelf brackets hidden inside the slab make them appear to emerge from the wall naturally. Black wrought iron brackets create a more rustic or industrial feel. Brass or brushed steel can elevate the look into something more refined, even luxurious. Each choice of hardware changes the way the shelf feels, without ever taking away from the presence of the back edge. What truly sets back edge shelving apart, though, is the way it resists time. While trends in interior design shift constantly, the appeal of raw wood has remained steady. People are drawn to materials that feel honest, that show where they came from. A slab with its bark still intact is unashamedly itself. It doesn't try to be manufactured perfection. It embraces the irregular, the uneven, the unpredictable. In doing so, it connects us to something deeper, something human. It's easy to see why back edge shelving has gained momentum in recent years alongside the larger live-edge furniture movement. As more people look for ways to bring warmth and authenticity into their homes, these shelves provide a manageable entry point. They don't demand the space of a massive dining table or bed frame, but they still deliver that raw beauty in concentrated form. For some, a single back edge shelf above a desk or near an entryway is enough to shift the tone of the entire room. There's also something grounding about living with wood in this form. It changes over time, subtly. The color deepens as light and air touch it. The surface develops a patina. Unlike plastic or manufactured laminate, which stay flat and lifeless until they wear out, wood tells a story as it ages. And when that wood still carries its bark edge, you see time not just in the surface finish, but in the growth patterns, the rings, the edge that once faced the open world. In modern interiors dominated by glass, steel, and concrete, back edge shelving acts almost like an anchor. It softens the environment, counterbalancing the coldness of harder materials. Place one against a stark white wall, and it draws the eye instantly. Position it near a concrete backdrop, and it brings warmth. Pair it with glass, and it emphasizes contrast. It never disappears into the background. It always asserts its presence, but without overwhelming the space. Designers often use bark edge shelving as transitional elements between styles. In homes that blend rustic and modern aesthetics, these shelves bridge the gap perfectly. Bark edge shelving is one of those design choices that instantly connects a modern interior back to nature. Unlike perfectly milled planks or polished boards, bark edge pieces keep the irregular outline of the tree intact. You see the curves, the bumps, sometimes even the knots where branches once grew. It's raw, imperfect, and that's exactly where the charm lies. Each shelf is different because no two trees are identical, and that means every installation carries a character you can't mass produce. These shelves work beautifully in a range of settings. In a rustic cabin, they blend seamlessly, almost as though they grew right out of the wall. In a contemporary home, they act as a striking counterpoint to clean white walls and sleek furniture, softening the space with organic warmth. Even in minimalist interiors, a single back edge shelf can break up the austerity with just enough texture to make the room feel more grounded. Functionally, they are more versatile than they first appear. Some people use them for books, letting the bark form a natural lip that keeps everything in place. Others treat them as display surfaces for plants, ceramics, or small art pieces, where the rough edges frame the objects with a natural border. They can run as single floating boards or be stacked in sets for a laid look, and when mounted with hidden brackets, they give the impression of wood hovering effortlessly against the wall. The wood species you choose matters. A piece of oak with its thick, rugged bark has a completely different presence than a slice of cedar with its reddish tone and aromatic qualities. Some makers leave the bark untouched, preserving it exactly as it came from the mill. Others stabilize it with clear resin or oil finishes to ensure longevity and prevent flaking. Either way, the bark itself becomes the visual focal point, standing out against the smoother flat plane of the shelf's top surface. What makes back edge shelving particularly appealing is its blend of utility and artistry. It's practical enough to serve as storage, but sculptural enough to be decor in its own right. The edges aren't uniform, the lines aren't straight, and that unpredictability is exactly what makes people pause and look closer. It reminds you that this material was alive, that it grew and weathered before being shaped into something useful. At its best, back edge shelving gives a room soul. It carries the story of the tree, the craftsman who cut it, and the homeowner who chose to display it. It's a small detail with a big impact, a way of bringing nature indoors without fuss, keeping the edges wild and the surface refined. In a world of straight lines and factory finishes, backyard shelving is proof that beauty often lies in what's left untouched.
Thank you.